What's up, guys? Flippin' Steve here today to talk about flipping cards, or quick flipping cards in today's market, sports card market that is. And this is a request. I had a comment in one of my past videos that asked me how I started and how I was able to flip or snowball my way up to larger high-end cards. Now, instead of doing a video on what I actually did back in the day, I'm going to talk about ways that you can do it today. And with that being said, it's because a lot of the methods that I used 2 to 3 years ago are no longer viable. A lot of that stuff is gone. And I'm going to speak from personal experience. A lot of stuff that I'm going to talk about is going to be examples of what I did and what I'm currently doing. I always just talk about kind of what I'm doing in the hobby or what I've done. And also, I don't have notes and stuff here. So basically, this is just like a general conversation. This is a conversation video between me and you guys, and I'm just going to, conversate / or converse these things to you as if I was talking to one of my friends. So what I would like to say is, gone are the days of being able to head over to a platform like StarStock. Okay, StarStock's not even around anymore. But the days of being able to head over there and buy base Prism rookie cards of, say, Isaiah Roby for 30 to 50 cents a piece and sell them the next day for 20 bucks a piece because he started and had 20 points. Yes, that was something that happened in the madness of 2020 and the pandemic time. That is something that happened. That is something that I did. Those days are over. Going on eBay and buying a lot of base Jason Tatum optics, 10 of them for $3 to $4 a piece, getting them graded and selling them for $300 to $400 a piece, those days are over. Grading base cards and selling them for big profits is over. Now, we will talk about grading later in this conversation, and we will also talk about prospecting later in this conversation. But one thing that I would like to say is that today, of just buying any old card and slabbing it, or any old player and them having one good game and being able to get a lot of money out of them the next day or within the following week, it is over. So one of the most successful things that I did over those couple years was simply being part of the hobby, from 2020 to now, from 2019 to now. Just being part of the hobby, you were going to be able to make money if that's what you were looking to do. It was just timing, and it was luck. It was luck of the timing. Anybody who told you they made hundreds of thousands or thousands or even hundreds of dollars, depending on the level of which they were buying and selling, and it was all skill through those years, that's false, guys. Anybody could have done that at those times. It was super easy, a word that I don't like to use. But just everything was hot, and it was an anomaly. And you had to be lucky enough to be a part of it. I'm not too proud. I'm humble enough to say that a lot of what I did was lucky. Now, with that being said, I did have some instinctive qualities that helped me be ahead of some markets, okay? I always liked to buy things that no one else was buying or selling. When people were buying modern soccer, especially the 2014 Prism, and all that stuff was really just selling for astronomical prices. Astronomical, that would be a good word. I was buying vintage soccer, and then eventually it gravitated to that market. I was buying GOAT players, from the 80s and 90s, because those were the people that I grew up watching, and then they got popular, so I was just ahead of it by chance. I was buying Marvel cards off of COMC for next to nothing a year and a half to 2 years before the Marvel card boom and the PMG boom. So I was sitting with a lot of that stuff because I was just buying it because I thought that it was cool, and I thought that someday other people might think that it was cool, and it was cheap, and it was one of the only things that was cheap. So a lot of that stuff being said, let's talk about ways that you can still make money quick flipping in today's market. And my definition of quick flip is maybe different. It's different for everyone. I'm going to put a 6-month time period on this. Some people might be like a year. Some people buy and sell a card within 20 minutes. Okay, but I'm going to put a 6-month period on this. So before you blow up the comments and say quick flipping this, putting a 6-month period on it because I think that that's fair, because it gives you time to play between the seasons of the different sports. It also gives you time to grade cards, you know, based on turnaround times. And I don't know what the turnaround times currently are, but 6 months should easily cover it today with the backlogs being caught up with. So let's start with card shows. Card shows are going to be your best way to increase your profit margins for flipping, because you're going to be able to buy in person. You're going to be able to buy with cash, okay? You're going to be able to negotiate face-to-face as opposed to back and forth with best offers on eBay. You're also going to buy cards without establishing a comp on an electronic platform that's tracked, okay? So get out to the shows, because you're going to be able to pay for cash. You're going to be able to bundle deals. You're going to be able to, you know, buy the one card that you want and have 4 or 5 cards thrown in at a discount, and then you can use those cards to flip to pay for the one card that you wanted. Make sure you're using your social media platforms like Instagram. Okay, make sure you buy or you find sellers that you can trust, but make sure you're using Instagram. Make sure you're watching social media and YouTube and paying attention to not only the trends and not only the news. Use some of these vlogs that some of these content creators put out and use that to gauge what's hot. Use that to gauge what's popular, what they're moving out on the show floor. And that gives you an idea of what some of the cards, you know, if you just have no idea what to look for, some of the things to look for. Especially if you know that a content creator is looking for something specific. I've in the past have bought cards intentionally to target certain people at shows because I've seen them saying that they were interested in these cards on YouTube videos. They may say, hey, I'm looking for player A. I'll go and buy player A, and to see them at the show, I automatically know someone that's going to be interested in that card. So the shows are very important. They're also very important because one of the main aspects of flipping that has become viable again is raw to graded. And you're going to want to see your cards in person to grade. It's tough to buy quality raw cards off the internet. A lot of times people that are selling these are probably selling these cards raw because there's probably something wrong with them. A lot of times they would get the card graded themselves, unless they're just someone who's getting cards out of breaks and they just want to sell to recoup some of their money. So again, get out to the shows so you can buy cash, get deals. Buying in bulk, that's another big thing. And most of the time that's going to happen when you're buying in person. You can personally look at your raw cards and see what you want to grade. Now with that being said, let's talk about grading. One of the key things that I like about grading and cards that I look to grade are cards that no one else is grading. You know, whether that just be a Hall of Fame on-card auto or that be a silver prism of someone, whether that be an old soccer sticker of somebody. But I tend to like to grade the things that no one else is grading. That way I don't have a lot of competition on the secondary market for those slabs. And a lot of times the buyer of these slabs don't feel like grading it themselves, especially if they're collectors. One thing I want to stress is your end game for a card. If you want to maximize your profits, you want to buy cards that collectors are going to want to buy off of you. People are so easy to dismiss base cards these days, but they don't tell you why. They just say base cards are mass printed. Yeah, but the main reason is because collectors don't want that, okay? If you're a Luka Doncic collector, you can only have so many base prism rookies of him in your collection before you're like, hey, I have his base prism. You know, if you're a Patrick Mahomes collector and a base optic rated rookie of him, if you're a collector, you might want one of those in your collection, but are you going to want a lot of those in your collection? I mean, it's not special. So again, look for cards that collectors are going to want, and that's typically going to steer clear of base cards. It's going to be cards that are more special, cards that are harder to find. And a lot of times, it won't matter so much of what you're grading. You know, you can't grade junk, but that you're grading cards that someone's going to want. For instance, I bought a National Treasures on-card autograph of Isaiah Thomas off eBay for $40. I'm fairly confident, or very confident, that I can send that to a company like SGC. I don't even have to go to PSA, and get a grade of 9 or better and an auto grade of 10 and if I pay $30 to have it graded, and that's on a high side, I'm in $70. And I believe that someone, if I listed it for a buy it now of 125, would buy that card. And there's a profit margin for you, because you're buying cards, nice cards, that a lot of people don't have out there graded, and that someone would like to add to their collection without the hassle of having to buy it and grade it themselves, and also not knowing what it will grade. If it's already graded, they know what they're getting. They know the condition of the card. So before I was rudely interrupted by a 9-hour workday, I was touching on the fact that it is still viable to make money buying raw cards, grading them, and flipping them. And the important thing is that you make sure you're buying nice cards, not only from a condition standpoint, which is very important. The higher the grade, of course, the more money you can make off of a card, but also nicer cards, not just your basic run-of-the-mill base cards that used to be able to be flipped, and profited upon, 2 years ago. It's just, again, like I touched on earlier, it's not the days of that. And in the end, like I said, you're going to be selling to collectors. You're going to want nicer cards. And a lot of times, it's just kind of doing the dirty work. There are people out there who have money to spend on cards, but they don't want to put in the time to buy the card to grade it themselves, but they want slabbed cards. A lot of times you're just acting as the middleman. If you're buying the raw card, having it graded, getting a nice grade on it, and then a collector buying it because a collector wants a slab card, you're the middleman. You're doing the dirty work, and you're making the money, the profit, just by that alone. So again, it's important that you get nice cards to target the collectors, and you're getting cards that not everybody else is selling. It's different. Try to be unique, and that you're getting cards with good condition, that have good condition, that are in good condition, and a majority of the time you're going to be buying those types of cards in person. One other thing I want to talk about is percentage gains in proportion to just lump sums of money. What I mean by that is it's easier to buy a lower end card for, say, 10 to 20 bucks, and then flip that card for 20 to 40 bucks and doubling your money. It's a lot easier to double up when the cards that you're selling are less money. If that makes sense. You're buying these cards for less money. It's easier to double up, because it's hard for a $1,000 card on the high end to become a $2,000 card. It may become a $1,200 card, or a $1,300, or even a $1,400, $1,500 card. But again, that's not a double up on your money. That's a good percentage return, but it's a higher risk for a lower percentage, but you are getting a higher lump sum. Or you can play the game of buying lots of lower end cards and flipping them for, anywhere between 70 to 100% profit, and making money that way at a lower risk. However, it's going to be more work. So you just ask yourself, what do you want to do? Typically with me, when I buy in bulk or I buy lower end, I consign. When I sell in bulk, or when I want to sell a lot of cards, at least 20 cards or more, I consign. And that's one way that I save myself on time, which time is money. That's one way I save myself on shipping and things like that. Yes, my consignor does get a cut, but in the end, it's very fair what I make. And then, you guys will use whatever consignor you want to use. I'm not going to recommend, but just find the consignor that you want to go with. Just like with the grading and talking about grading companies, find the grading company that you want to use for a particular card, and use them to the best of your benefit, because there's a spot for every grading company out there. They have a use. The last thing I do want to talk about is going to be prospecting. That's going to be one of the major ways that you can still profit off of quick flipping within a 6-month period. And it's also the highest risk. Let's call it what it is. It's gambling. You're putting your money into something. You're prospecting. You're hoping that it's going to come out right on the other end. And it's something that you really have no control over on your own. Yeah, you can do research. You can look at players. You can make decisions based on good judgment. But in the end of the day, you don't control the end result of how a player does. One thing to take into account is lots of prospects that have promise nowadays already have lots of price baked into them. They're already starting off at high dollar, high value. You're already paying a lot of money for such players in every sport. Regardless of sport, you're already paying a lot of money for these players before they've even stepped up to home plate, before they've even taken a jump shot, before they've taken a snap. You're paying big bucks for lots of these players. So you really need something big to happen for you to not only get your money back, but to make money on the other end. And in my opinion, the best way to make money on prospecting is to find someone that no one else likes, that no one else believes in. Go out after that player. Typically, they're going to be cheaper. They are going to be a longer shot. It is going to be tougher to predict these guys, but you're going to get them cheaper. And those are the guys that surprise people. When they surprise people, they don't already have the baked-in goodness, if that's what you want to call it. And then all of a sudden, there's a scramble for their cards. Take Brock Purdy, for example. Brock Purdy was not a prospect coming into last year's football season. But as he got to play and surprised people, his cards really went up in the value. If you took someone like Trevor Lawrence, his cards already had baked in value because he was the previous number one pick in the draft and was expected to do good. People, his cards already had the baked in of, hey, this guy's going to be a superstar. Brock Purdy didn't have that. So those are the types of players that I tend to look for. But it is going to be a lot harder to predict those guys. One way that I personally like to go, and this is me speaking for myself, is I like to look for players that at one time they were hyped, their cards had value, and for one reason or another, they have fallen out of favor with the hobby. Either they've had an injury, either they've played poorly, they've bounced around, they might be 3-4 years into their career, and they haven't shown much, they haven't reached their potential, and a lot of people have labeled these players as busts. I usually like to prospect on a couple players that were once hyped up and showed promise, that have become labeled as busts, but people that I think can rebound. I look for rebound players. That's where I typically like to prospect. I don't like to go out and just buy any old random person that may never play again. They might be a 6th or 7th round draft pick in the NFL. I don't like to chase after those guys. I like to go after guys who were drafted early, say first round, didn't quite pan out, but they're still young in their career and they still have a chance to rebound. Those are the guys I typically tend to look for me personally. And those are the ones that you can make money off of, because people will remember a time of when their cards were hyped, of when they had potential. And if they land in the right position and those players start to show promise once again, people will remember, oh yeah, I remember when he was hot. I remember his cards. And they will rebound to an extent. They may never reach the prices they once were, especially when we're talking 2020, 2021 prices, but you will see players gain hype, regain some love, and regain some value. And if you can get in on these players when no one else believes in them, or when everyone else has given up on them and they're just cutting ties, that's a good chance for you to get some profit on the other end. All right, guys, that's enough. That's all I really have to talk about. Just remember, you can still grade to flip, or grade raw to grade to flip. You can do some prospecting. You want to get out to your shows, to cut your costs, to get your deals, to find your quality raw cards and things like that. Price point's always huge. Make sure you're not overpaying. You overpay for a card, you pretty much shoot yourself in the foot right out of the gate. That's all I got for you tonight, today, whatever you want to call it. I started this video in the daytime and finishing it 9 hours later at night after working. My head's turned to mush. I'm ready to go to bed. I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a good one.